Hey friends, I am Jackson. Welcome back to Jackson English Stories. You understand English, you watch the videos, you read the subtitles. Maybe you even laugh at the right moments, but when it is your turn to speak, nothing. Your mind goes blank. Your mouth freezes. It is not because you are lazy. It is not because you do not know the words. It is because of something else, something invisible. And that is what we are talking about today. Let me ask you something. Have you ever understood everything someone said to you in English, but still could not respond? You knew the meaning. You felt it, but when you tried to speak, there was this wall, a pause. That gap between knowing and speaking, that is where I lived for a long time. Actually, while we are here together, let me ask you something personal. Where are you watching this video right now? Are you on the subway? In your kitchen, walking your dog? And what time is it for you? Morning? Midnight? Type it in the comments. I want to know, I really do, because wherever you are not alone in this. People from all over the world are right here with you. One time, I was sitting in a small coffee shop. The waiter came over, looked at me, smiled, and asked, "Still or sparkling?" And you know what? I knew what he meant. I had heard those words before. I had even practiced them. But in that moment, I froze. I looked at him, nodded, then just pointed to the menu. My hands were sweating. My heart was racing, and I walked out thinking, what just happened to me? That moment stuck with me for weeks. It was not the waiter's fault. He was polite, friendly. He did nothing wrong, it was me. It was the way my brain reacted. Like I was suddenly in a test I did not study for, even though I had been studying for years. Later that night, I could not sleep. I kept replaying the moment, the question, the pause, the panic. I kept thinking, why can I understand English so well? But when it is my turn, I fall apart. This was not the first time either. There had been others. At a grocery store checkout, at an airport security line, on the phone with customer service, always the same thing. I understood, but I could not speak, and every time, I felt smaller, quieter, like my voice was locked in a room and I had lost the key. I thought maybe I was just not confident enough, or maybe I needed to learn more words, so I tried harder. Memorized longer vocabulary lists, rewatched grammar videos, practiced sentences in front of the mirror. But when I went outside, silence again. That silence, that was the worst part. Because it did not just stop my English, it made me feel like I had failed, even when no one around me said anything bad. Even when the people were patient and kind, the judgment came from me. And here is the thing. If you have felt that too, you are not broken. You are not bad at English. You are just stuck in that invisible gap. And I want you to know, you can get out. In the next part, I will tell you about the person who helped me see the problem differently. Someone who gave me 3 words that changed everything. Stick around. Because this might be the moment you never forget. So here is what happened. A couple of weeks after that coffee shop incident, I bumped into someone I had not seen in years, my old English teacher. He used to teach adult learners at a community center, and honestly, he was one of the few teachers who really made learning feel human, not academic, not robotic. Real. He looked the same. Glasses, warm smile, kind of like someone who has seen a lot of students struggle and still believes in every single one of them. We talked for a few minutes. He asked how my English was going. I laughed nervously and said, I understand a lot now, but I still can't speak when it counts. He nodded like he had heard it 100 times, and then he said something that stopped me. 3 simple words. Do not translate. I blinked. That is it? That is your advice? But then he leaned in and added one more word. Just one, the most important one. He said, react. Do not translate. React. It sounded almost too simple, but something about the way he said it made me pause. No explanation, no grammar breakdown, just those 3 words, and then he smiled and walked away. Later that night, I sat in bed and wrote them down. Do not translate. React. I kept repeating them in my head over and over, like a rhythm. A beat. Do not translate. React. Do not translate. React. And something about it felt different. It felt right, like it unlocked something I had been missing this whole time. You know how sometimes one sentence just rewires your whole mindset? That was it for me. I had been spending all my energy trying to say things perfectly, making sure the grammar was clean. The words were correct, the pronunciation sounded smart, but that strategy, it was making me slow, scared, frozen. My teacher's words were a reminder that speaking is not about being perfect. It is about being present. It is not about translating your thoughts. It is about trusting them, letting them come out without judgment. And I started to wonder, what if I practiced that every day? What if, instead of building the perfect English sentence in my head, I just reacted, just said what I could, what came naturally? Even if it was broken, even if it was messy, when I first tried to follow that advice. Do not translate, just react. I realized how deeply I was stuck in translation mode. Everything I wanted to say had to go through this mental filter. Vietnamese first, then English. And you know what? That filter was not fast. It was slow. It was clumsy. It stole the moment. I remember trying to order food again. I was ready. I had practiced. But the guy at the counter asked, "What can I get started for you?" And boom, my brain stopped. Not because I did not understand. I did. But because I was translating, I was thinking, okay, he is asking me what I want. I need to say, I would like a sandwich. But wait, which kind? How do I say? And just like that, I was behind. He was looking at me. I was staring at the board, and the pressure built up. The same thing happened during conversations. Someone would say, "That movie was hilarious." And instead of just nodding or replying, I would think, "Hilarious." Is that like funny or more than funny? Should I say, "Yes, it was very funny," or should I say something cooler? Meanwhile, the conversation had already moved on. That is what translation does. It makes you slow, it makes you second guess, it keeps your brain busy with the wrong things. And worst of all, it keeps your brain in your first language. You are not living in English, you are managing it. Like juggling balls while walking a tightrope. When I realized this, it hit me hard. I was trying to be perfect. But I was losing the moment, I was missing the connection, and that is what language is for. Not accuracy, connection. So I started changing my approach. Instead of thinking first in my native language, I forced myself to stay in English, even when the sentence was broken. Even when it felt weird. I stopped translating and I started reacting. And in the next part, I will show you what that looked like in my everyday practice, the exercises, the shifts, and the tiny wins that built real confidence. So what does it actually mean to think in English? It sounds like a fancy idea, right? Like something only advanced learners or native speakers can do. But it is not. It is much simpler and much more possible than most people think. Thinking in English does not mean you know every word. It does not mean you speak fast or perfectly. It means you stop depending on your native language as a middleman. You stop needing permission from your brain to speak. You just speak, even with mistakes. Even with pauses. Because the thinking is already happening in English. I used to believe that thinking in English meant I had to replace all my inner thoughts, my emotions, my daily worries, even my dreams, with perfect English sentences. That was overwhelming. That was not realistic. And it turns out, that is not how it works at all. It starts small. Tiny moments. You see a cup, and instead of thinking in your first language, your brain just says cup. You wake up, and instead of forming a thought in your own language first, your mind quietly says, I need to brush my teeth. Not because you forced it, but because you let it happen. Naturally, repeatedly, without translating. This switch does not come overnight. It is not magic. It is training. Rewiring. Creating a habit of trusting the English you already know. You do not wait until you feel ready. You just use what you have now. Here is the weird part. When I started thinking in English, I spoke slower at first. That surprised me, but it made sense. I was breaking an old habit. I was no longer translating my thoughts. I was creating them directly in English. And yes, they were simple. Yes, they were limited, but they were real. And over time, the thoughts got longer. The words came faster. The fear faded. I was not translating anymore. I was reacting, responding, living in English, even just a few minutes at a time. That is what thinking in English really means. It is not about being fluent. It is about being present. Present in the language, present in the moment. And once you start noticing those little shifts, when your brain chooses the English word first, before anything else, you will realize you are getting there. You are crossing the bridge from understanding to speaking. In the next part, I will walk you through exactly how I practiced this every day, not in a classroom, not in a textbook, but in my kitchen, on the bus, in my real life. So let me take you through a normal day, not a special one, just an ordinary Tuesday. Because that is when the real learning happens, when no one is watching. The first thing I did, I turned my house into an English zone, not with big posters or anything like that, just with my voice. My thoughts. I would walk around and describe what I was doing out loud in English. I am making coffee. The floor is cold. I need to do laundry today. Was it weird at first? Absolutely, I felt silly, like I was pretending to be in an English commercial. But after a few days, it started to feel normal, natural. It became part of my rhythm. Then, on the way to work or school or wherever I had to go, I would look around and name things. Tree, bus, red jacket. That guy looks tired. And then I would take it a step further. I would make little comments, like I was talking to a friend. Oh man, traffic again. That cloud looks like a dog. She seems like she is in a hurry. Just short thoughts. Quick reactions, but in English, always in English. Sometimes I would listen to a podcast or a YouTube video and just repeat what I heard 1 second later. Not trying to copy the voice perfectly, just trying to stay in the rhythm. That is called shadowing. And it is one of the best ways to build natural fluency. And if I did not know how to say something, I would either skip it or find a simpler way. Instead of, that intersection is really congested, I would say, too many cars. Simple, but still English. At night, before going to bed, I had one final habit. I would review my day in English, just in my head, like this. Today was okay. I was tired in the morning. My lunch was good. I talked to that new guy. He is nice. I want to sleep early tonight. No pressure, no grammar stress. Just English, just reflection. And you know what? After a few weeks of this constant, simple practice, my brain stopped needing permission. It just switched. I would see something and the word would appear. I would feel something and the sentence would form. Not always fast, not always smooth. But it was mine, my English, my voice. And that was the breakthrough. Next, I want to show you how building this muscle memory works. Because fluency is not just mental, it is physical too. Let me say that again. Language is a muscle. It is not just knowledge you collect in your head. It is something you train, something you build. And like any muscle, if you do not use it, you lose it. Think about going to the gym. The first day, you feel weak, uncoordinated. maybe even embarrassed. You are lifting light weights. You are moving slowly. And your muscles are sore the next day. Now think about your mouth, your tongue, your brain. All of those parts are involved when you speak. And if you are not using them to form English sounds, English words, English thoughts, those muscles stay weak, or worse, they default back to your native language. That is why speaking is not just about knowing grammar or remembering vocabulary. It is about muscle memory. It is about creating physical familiarity with English. When I first started shadowing English speakers, my mouth felt stiff. My jaw got tired. I stumbled on sounds like th or r or long vowels. And you know what? That was a good sign. It meant I was using muscles I had ignored for years. Over time, just like working out, I got stronger. My lips moved faster. My breath control improved. My pronunciation became smoother. Not perfect, but better. More automatic. There is a reason athletes train daily. Musicians too. Not because they forget how to play or run, but because the body needs rhythm, repetition, feedback, and that is exactly how it works with speaking English. You do not need to sound perfect, you just need to keep moving, keep lifting. Keep training. Even 5 minutes a day can build that muscle. Talking to yourself. Reading out loud, shadowing a podcast, repeating a phrase you heard in a movie. The goal is not to speak like a native speaker. The goal is to speak like you, clearly, confidently, without freezing. In the next part, I will tell you a story. Someone just like you, someone who used this exact mindset, this language muscle idea, and changed everything. Let me tell you about someone I met a few years ago. Her name was Mai. She was in her 30s, from Vietnam, and had been studying English on and off for almost 10 years. She knew grammar. She had a great vocabulary. She could pass written tests and understand movies with subtitles. But when it came to real conversations, especially with native speakers, she froze. We met at a language exchange. She was so nervous she barely looked up when she spoke. She kept her sentences short. She apologized constantly. And the moment someone spoke too fast, she shut down. You could see it in her eyes, the panic, the shame. But she was not weak. She was just stuck in that same place we have all been. The space between knowledge and confidence. The gap between understanding and using. One night after the session, I shared with her what my teacher had told me. Those 3 simple words, do not translate. React. I explained what I had done. The daily practice. The shadowing, the small steps, and she nodded. Quiet at first, but something in her changed. She said, I think I've been waiting to be perfect before I start speaking. But maybe I just need to start. And she did, every day. She committed to one small thing. One sentence out loud in the morning. One shadowing session during lunch. One tiny conversation with a classmate. She did not aim for perfection. She aimed for repetition. Muscle memory. Emotional control. She made mistakes, of course she did. But she laughed at them. She learned from them. And most importantly, she did not stop. 3 months later, she came back to the language exchange group, and I barely recognized her. Same person, totally different presence. She walked in with confidence. She asked questions. She told a short story about her job. Her grammar was not perfect. Her pronunciation was not flawless. But she was fluent in the most important way. She connected. She communicated. She was present. Mai reminded me of something powerful. Fluency is not about speaking without errors. It is about speaking without fear. And in the next part, I want to break down exactly what fear does to your brain and how to overcome it step by step. Let us talk about fear. Not the kind you feel when watching a scary movie. I am talking about the quiet, sneaky fear that shows up when you are about to speak English. The fear that whispers, What if you mess up? What if they laugh at you? What if you sound stupid? Fear is powerful, and it is invisible. That is why it is dangerous. You might be in a cafe or at a meeting or just texting someone, and suddenly your chest tightens, your throat dries up, and your brain says, "Do not speak." And the worst part? Fear does not need to be loud to stop you. It just needs to make you hesitate for 1 second. That one pause is all it takes to break your flow. To break your confidence, to keep you silent. I know that fear. I have felt it, and I have seen it in hundreds of learners. They know the words. They understand the question, but they freeze. Not because they are lazy. Not because they are not smart, but because fear has trained their brain to stay safe. You see, your brain is wired to protect you from danger. Thousands of years ago, that meant running from tigers. Today, it means avoiding embarrassment. And speaking a second language, especially in front of others, feels risky, so your brain hits the brakes. It says, "Wait, better not. What if you say it wrong? What if they do not understand? What if they think you are dumb?" But here is the truth. No one ever became fluent by waiting until they were fearless. You do not overcome fear by avoiding it. You overcome fear by doing the thing anyway, while you are still afraid. One of the most important things I learned is this: fear does not mean stop. Fear means go carefully, go gently, but go. So how do you deal with fear in English? First, name it. Say it out loud. I am afraid I will sound silly. Just naming the fear can make it smaller, more human. Second, shrink the moment. Do not try to have a perfect conversation. Just try to say one sentence, one word, one smile with a hi. Third, celebrate the effort, not the result. If you spoke and they did not understand, that is okay. You tried. You showed up. That is a win. And last, repeat. Repetition builds trust. Trust builds confidence. And confidence is what carries you through the next scary moment. In the next part, I want to share what schools and textbooks often miss. The real-world skills that only show up when you talk to real people. Let us be honest, textbooks are helpful. They give you structure, rules, vocabulary, exercises. But they also give you something else, the illusion that English is clean, predictable, and polite. In real life, English is messy. People interrupt, they mumble, they talk with their mouths full. They use slang. They start a sentence, stop, change direction, and then finish with something completely different. Textbooks cannot prepare you for that. I remember the first time someone said to me, "Want to grab a bite?" I had no idea what they meant. I thought, "Bite? Of what? What are we grabbing?" It took me a second to realize they were just asking if I wanted to eat lunch. And by the time I figured it out, the moment had passed. That is what real English is like. It is full of shortcuts, tone, rhythm, and context. You cannot memorize that stuff. You have to feel it, and you only feel it by using it, by being in it. One of the most powerful ways to grow your fluency is to step into real conversations. Not perfect ones. Not rehearsed ones, just real, human, unpredictable moments. That is where you learn how to interrupt politely. How to react when someone talks too fast. How to fill a silence without panicking. Textbooks teach you how to say, "Where is the post office?" But they do not teach you how to say, "Sorry, I totally missed that. Can you say it again?" They teach you how to order food, but not how to deal with a cashier who mumbles and looks bored. That is why talking to strangers, yes, strangers, is such a powerful practice. They will not follow your script, and that is a gift. It forces you to be present, to adapt, to listen not just with your ears, but with your face, your hands, your gut. And the truth is, most people are kind. They are not judging your English. They are happy you are trying. The skills you build in those moments, those are the skills that make you fluent. Not just in grammar, but in life. In the next part, I want to talk about how strangers, random people you meet, can become your best teachers, even if you never see them again. Let me tell you something I believe deeply. If you want to get good at speaking English, talk to strangers, not just English teachers. Not just classmates, strangers, real people. On the street, at the coffee shop, in the elevator. Why? Because they are unpredictable. They are honest. They do not follow scripts, and that is what makes them the best teachers. You see, when you talk to a stranger, there is no safety net. You cannot rewind. You cannot re-record. You are in the moment, and in that moment, your brain works faster. Your instincts take over. You stop thinking about grammar, and you start thinking about meaning. I remember once I was lost in a new city. I asked someone for directions. I was nervous, my voice shaky, and I probably messed up the sentence. But the woman I asked smiled, answered slowly, and even pointed to make sure I understood. That moment, simple, human, kind, taught me more than an entire textbook unit on directions. Strangers help you train the most underrated skill in language, confidence, because it is not about saying everything perfectly. It is about being brave enough to try. And you do not need a big, dramatic conversation. It can be small, saying good morning to the security guard. Asking, is this seat taken, on the bus? Ordering your coffee with eye contact and a smile. Each of those is a rep that's a set, a mini workout for your fluency muscle. And here is the best part. You do not need to see them again. If you make a mistake, so what? They will forget. You will move on. But the confidence you gained stays with you. One sentence at a time, you build your voice. You stop being a student of English. You become a speaker of English. In the next part, I want to share a fun little challenge that changed everything for me and for many of my students. It is simple, a bit scary, but incredibly powerful. I call it one stranger a day. This challenge is exactly what it sounds like. Every day for the next 7 days, or 30. If you are feeling bold, you speak to one stranger in English, just one. That is it. It could be a question, a compliment, a simple comment about the weather. It does not have to be deep or clever. The point is not what you say. The point is that you say something. Hi, I like your shoes. Excuse me, is this the right bus to downtown? Nice weather today, huh? That is it. Just one sentence. One real interaction. I remember when I first tried this challenge. My heart was pounding every time. I would rehearse the sentence in my head, take a deep breath, and then go for it. Sometimes it went great, other times, awkward. One guy just nodded and walked away. Another smiled and asked where I was from. A few ignored me completely. But here's the thing, I survived, and every day it got easier. By day 3, I did not need to rehearse as much. By day 5, I started to enjoy it. By day 7, it became part of my rhythm. Because the truth is, confidence is not something you wait for. It is something you build. And you build it by doing scary things, one tiny piece at a time. Some of my students have told me this challenge changed their lives, not because it taught them perfect grammar, but because it helped them break the silence. It gave them permission to use their voice. So here is your invitation. Starting tomorrow, try it. Speak to one stranger a day. Write down what happened, what you said, how they reacted, how you felt. You do not have to do it forever, but do it long enough to prove to yourself that you can. In the next part, I want to talk about what to do when you do not have anyone to talk to. Because yes, you can still practice speaking even when you are completely alone. What if you do not have anyone to talk to? What if you live somewhere quiet, or you are shy, or it is just one of those days where human interaction feels impossible? That is okay, because here's the truth. Talking alone still counts. Yes, I said it. Talking to yourself, out loud in English, is one of the most underrated, most powerful tools for fluency. Why? Because your mouth does not care who is listening. It just needs practice. Your brain does not care if the sentence is part of a conversation or a solo thought. It just needs repetition. I used to walk around my apartment narrating everything I was doing. I am brushing my teeth. I need to wash these dishes. Where did I put my keys? I sounded like a one-person reality show, but it worked. It trained my brain to react in English, not translate into it. And when I was out in public but too nervous to speak, I would do silent commentary in my head. That car is too loud. That kid looks excited. I wonder what time it is. Later, I started using voice memos. I would record myself talking about my day, like a diary. No script, no editing, just me in English rambling. And the best part? I could listen later and notice what sounded natural and what felt forced. You can also use mirrors. Talk to your reflection. Practice how you want to say something. Make eye contact with yourself. It may feel strange at first, but it builds confidence. You become your own coach. The goal is not to be perfect. The goal is to keep the language alive in your mouth and mind. So if you are feeling stuck because no one is around to practice with, do not wait. Start with you. Because every word you say, yes, even to yourself, counts. And in the next part, I want to tell you about a student who mastered this technique and turned solo practice into real-world success. Let me introduce you to someone I worked with last year. His name was David. He was from Brazil, and he had been studying English for almost 6 years. But mostly in private. Apps, online courses, grammar books. He had great pronunciation, clear grammar, and a good vocabulary. But he had one big problem. He was terrified of real people. When we first spoke, he told me, "I only talk to myself. I never talk to others in English. I am too afraid I will embarrass myself." Sound familiar? So we made a deal. For 2 weeks, he would keep practicing alone, just like he was doing. But every third day, he would go outside and say one sentence to a real person. Just one. A barista. A bus driver, someone at the store. He started small. He practiced his line in front of the mirror, said it out loud 10 times at home, then went to a coffee shop and said, "Can I get a small cappuccino, please?" That was it. He left right after, but he felt like he had run a marathon. And you know what? He did it again and again and again. By the end of 2 weeks, he was not just ordering coffee, he was asking follow-up questions. Making small talk, laughing. Not because he learned new words, but because he stopped waiting to feel ready. He told me something I will never forget. The mirror helped me build the sentence, but the strangers helped me build the courage. That is the bridge from private practice to public confidence. You start alone, quiet, safe. But slowly, you bring that voice out into the world. You do not need to give a speech. You just need to show up. So, if you have been practicing in your room, that is amazing. Keep going. But when you are ready, and even if you are not quite ready, step outside. Let your English be heard. Let people respond. Let your fear shrink, because your voice matters, even if it shakes. Even if it is quiet, it matters. And in the next part, we are going to bring it all together. I want to leave you with a message. Something simple. Something small. Just 3 words, but 3 words that can change everything. So here we are. We have talked about fear, fluency, muscle memory, strangers, shadowing, and speaking alone. We have walked through the invisible wall that holds so many people back. And maybe, just maybe, you are starting to see that wall crack. I want to leave you with the same 3 words that changed my English forever. You already know them, but now you know what they really mean. Do not translate, react. Those words are not just about English. They are about showing up, being real, letting go of perfection and stepping into the moment. You already understand more English than you think. You already know more than enough to begin. You do not need another textbook before you try. You do not need to master grammar before you speak. You do not need permission to open your mouth. You just need courage and curiosity and a little trust. So tomorrow, maybe even today, when the moment comes, do not pause, do not overthink, do not translate. React, say something, even if it is small, even if it is messy, even if your voice shakes, say it. Because that is how it begins. And if this video helped you, let me know in the comments. Tell me, what is one sentence you are going to say out loud today without translating? And if you want to keep going, if you want to walk this journey together, subscribe, because this is just the beginning. You can speak English, not someday. Now, do not translate. React. I am Jackson. And I believe in your voice.